I'm going to call to order this regular business meeting of the Council Bluffs Community School District Board of Directors. Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Kazire?
Present.
Mr. Arthur?
Here.
Ms. Shudak?
Yes.
Ms. Myers?
Here.
Mr. Peters?
Here.
Mr. Tripp?
Present.
And Mr. LaFurla.
Here. Please join me in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me in the pledge. Thank you. That brings us to approval of our agenda. Is there a motion?
I move approval of our agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And the agenda's been approved. Next, we have approval of the minutes from our work session and workshop meetings of April 12th, 2022. Is there a motion?
I can move to approve the minutes of the work session and the workshop meeting of April 12th, 2022 as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
And any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And the minutes have been approved. Next, we have public participation. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board regarding agenda items or other matters of concern. And did we have anyone request time to speak tonight? Okay, thank you. And that brings us to the superintendent's report. Dr. Murillo.
Thank you, Mr. LaFurla. Well, isn't it wonderful to have so many parents here with us this evening, family members supporting students? We have a wonderful staff and student recognition program planned. And Ms. Ostrowski, I'll invite you to the podium. And I'll turn the mic over to you.
All right, well, good evening.
Good evening.
It's great to see everyone, and I'm very pleased tonight to start with honoring our support and licensed staff members of the month. Our recognition program for staff and for students is sponsored by our Council Bluffs Schools Foundation, which is a tremendous gift because they have partners and donors who help support the cost of our stars that kids can take with them and display at their graduation parties and things like that. So let's get started with our support staff member of the month. I'd like to invite Allison Minahan, our nutrition services cook server at Crescent Elementary, to join us up front with Dr. Murillo. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about what her nominator shared, and that is Allison does so much for our Crescent students. Not only does she get delicious breakfasts and lunches ready for each of our students every day, all by herself, she also has a positive attitude and makes each student feel special. She is awesome with the students in the lunchroom, and you can tell she has a special connection with each student. You can also tell she cares and supports them, and we are grateful at Crescent that she is part of our team. Congratulations to you, Allison. And Lisa Stewart, the Director of Nutrition Services, as well as Crescent Principal Mariah Schroeder, are here to celebrate her with Mr. LaFurla and Dr. Murillo. Okay, we're in a hurry tonight.
It's a long walk.
Our licensed staff member of the month is, and I'm going to say this right because I've got a name of Ostrowski, Sam Zapluski. Sam is a preschool specialized special education teacher at Longfellow Elementary. Congratulations, Sam. Oh, dang. Sam is always cheerful, kind, and caring. She has great energy and a positive attitude. Mrs. C, and we know why they call her Mrs. C, shows every child the same love and respect, no matter if they're a student in her classroom or a student just passing through to say hi. She speaks to all students in a calm and caring manner and exhibits a tremendous amount of patience with students as she personalizes each child's individual instruction. Mrs. C is the best. Congratulations. Longfellow principal Brittany Hedrick, as well as the school manager Lynette Peterson, who is our chief photographer for this photo. Allison and Sam represent the many, many tremendous teachers and support staff out there. It's time for our student recognition portion. We have invited tonight to celebrate one of our 2 Quest Bridge scholars. We honored the last one at the last meeting. Candace Myers is going to be attending Grinnell College, and let me tell you, if Candace comes in from back here, let me tell you just what the Quest Bridge Scholar is. Quest Bridge Scholars is a prestigious college match program. She is a Thomas Jefferson High School student and also a member of our Early College Academy. She's one of only 6 Iowa recipients, and she is granted a full 4-year scholarship valued at approximately $300,000 to pay tuition and fees, room and board, books, supplies, and travel expenses, and I'm sure your parents are pleased with that as well. All right. Best wishes to you at Grinnell. Congratulations. Yep. Yeah, mom and dads, don't be shy. Next, we have our 2022 Iowa Governor Scholars. 4 members of the Abraham Lincoln and Thomas Jefferson class of 22 will be honored this weekend at a ceremony hosted by Governor Kim Reynolds as part of her recognition program. It recognizes about only 400 students statewide for their academic excellence during their high school careers. And I'm going to invite Caitlin Arnold.
Nice.
Hayden Blair. Paige Bracker. Yeah. And Jordan Kreft. Are they here? Okay, we have 2 of them here. Who do we have here tonight? Tatum. Where are you going to school?
I'm going to go to St. Ambrose.
St. Ambrose, okay. And Caitlin, where are you going to attend? UNO. All right, congratulations. Photo time. And then we're just
Thanks, guys. Nice job. Just sneak out the door.
Yep. I'm just pointing over. Thank you. And go ahead and go on out. Yes, thank you. That's the next one. All right. We are also proud tonight of our students who participate in the Health Occupations Students of America, more often called HOSA. Students competed in the HOSA Spring Leadership Conference in March. Students who placed then in the top 3 of their category are eligible to compete in the HOSA International Leadership Conference that will be held in Nashville in June. So they're preparing to go and do their best. They are joined tonight by instructor Patty Pettit and lots of proud parents. And I will read each student's name along with their state achievements. First of all, we have Tana Witt, who placed first in home health aid and was elected the 22-23 Vice President of Marketing. Congratulations. What a leader. Aiden Pitzer placed 3rd in nursing assistant. Mackenzie Shipley placed 2nd in medical law and ethics knowledge test. Alexa Takata placed 2nd in researched persuasive writing and speaking. Sarah Long placed in 2 categories, 3rd in Human Growth and Development Knowledge Test and 3rd in Medical Photography. Regan McDaniel placed second in Human Growth and Development Knowledge Test. I know. Maggie Stiles placed third in Health Career Display. Madeline Pitzer placed third in Health Career Display. Were you partners in crime? Okay. Okay, you want to hold one for the picture? We'll find it. That is it for HOSA. Congratulations to our HOSA. Yeah, go, no,
just coming.
she's coming in for the photo.
Jump at the right time.
Okay, we gotta, Reagan, we.
Yeah. All kinds of people there.
Yes. Yeah, he's bringing two back that he messed up on. Yeah, okay. All right. Next, we have all-state speech. Abraham Lincoln and Thomas Jefferson High School represented Council Bluffs at the Iowa High School Speech Association's large and individual state speech contests. Students are coached by Dirk Waller, Nikki Aldrich, and Matt Schmidt. In order to qualify for all-state recognition, 2 of the 3 judges had to nominate the performance as the most outstanding performance from the entire day of the performances. We are celebrating our outstanding students who were selected for all-state. In the large group, we had the Ailes Readers Theater with members Lydia Cooper,
So many stories up here, we're very confused.
yeah.
Diane is losing patience with us.
We're only a little bit confused, not a lot.
Not a lot.
Aubrey Papino. No. Cole Schroeder. Sterling Angeroth. Brooke Leichner. And Emily Newby. And in our individual competition, and we'll just keep you guys up here, we had, she wasn't able to join us, but Macy Wilson in poetry. Sterling Angeroth in expository address. Emily Newby in original oratory. Camille Anderson in reviewing. Lydia Cooper in reviewing and poetry. I think that's it.
Is that it?
Yep.
Congratulations.
Good job, Mom. So I was a senior, we took 18 tall state for TJ. There might have been 105 kids. It was ridiculous. All state's awesome.
Oh, no. What a great group. Congratulations. All right, how about we celebrate our robotics teams from the middle and high school level? All right. We're so fortunate in our community, as I indicated at our last meeting when we celebrated our elementary students, to have volunteer coaches and committed staff members who offer students the opportunity to learn about robotics and participate in these team events. Tonight, we're recognizing the middle and high school robotics teams who qualified either for the U.S. Open or for the VEX IQ World's Robotics Championship to be held in Dallas, Texas during the first few weeks of May. Next week, Mr. Arthur says. And Mr. Arthur, you're a big part of this, so congratulations to you in advance. All right, we are going to start with the Jefferson Robotics, coached by Mr. James Crum and Shannon Dunlap. They qualified 3 teams. If you both want to join us up here, you're welcome to. Team Full Metal Jackets were world qualifiers and U.S. Open qualifiers. They are Iowa State champions. They are Alyssa Arthur, Alondra Cruz, and Kara Ronk. And Kara Ronk.
I suppose.
Do you want this group by itself and then the next group together? Okay, sounds good. And these coaches will stay up here for the next group too. Okay. Team Full Metal Jackets. Okay. Team Robo Turtles were world qualifiers and also U.S. Open qualifiers. They won the Iowa State Excellence Awards, Iowa State champions, 2022 U.S. Open finalists, and were second in the nation. Members are Athena Neville, Asa Neville, and Abigail Franks. And that's your team Robo Turtles. Yes. Another member of Jefferson Robotics is Team The Hive, U.S. Open qualifiers, and the bracket buster at the U.S. Open, Nick Berg. I'm sorry about that. Hannah Morris. And Hunter Kennedy. Yeah. Okay, sounds good. This is your team, The Hive. All right. Tonight we have a team with us from the AL Junior ROTC program. They are Team Heartbreakers with coaches Justin Heckman and Ryan Higgins. They qualified based on national rankings in skills for driver control and in their win-loss record. Team members are Noah Welsh, Megan Wilson, Dara Pitch, and Ashton Saunders. Yep, Coach Justin Heckman.
Good job, Justin. Yeah, all parents go.
Okay. Congratulations.
Good job, guys.
From Kern Middle School, we have Team Lords of King Gerald, and they qualified for Worlds. They are, and coaches join us as well, Garrett Robertus. Are you part of this team? Carter Hannon. Ty West. Andrew Johnston. With Coach Christy Arthur. And for students not here tonight, we'll make sure they get their stars, of course. Sounds good. Thank you. You can decide if you want to take them to Worlds or not, if you just want to leave them at home. No, that sounds good. Yes.
Guys.
Mrs. Arthur, you may want to stay up here. Team Junior Lynx. Team Junior Lynx also qualified for Worlds. Team members are Isaiah Burgett. Blake Haggerty. Rowan Schmidt. And Brooke Haggerty. Isn't it fun to see all their shirts? Okay, there you go. All right, picture time for Team Junior Lynx. You guys keep getting further and further back.
One more, parents.
Team The Jedi won 3rd place in teamwork champions, and the team members are Mason Shields. Zed Wolf. Alice Kenny. Go ahead and stay right up here. And Eli Hansen. And coached by, okay, their coach is not here tonight. Marge Shields? Oh, Lori Shields. I know Lori. Okay, sorry. There you go. Wait, we're not quite done yet. The paparazzi's still going. Team Bionic Lynx won the Think Award. That's a great name, isn't it? Cohen Dighton. Mom's going to accept on his honor. Oh, okay, that too. Aiden Estelle. Addison Coors. And Jasmine Shields. Yep.
One more, there's more.
Great smiles. All right, from Wilson, Team Buzzbox includes, this one includes 2 Roosevelt Elementary 5th graders. They won the Excellence Award and Teamwork Champions. They are Jaden Ongesa. Aiden Hector. Abigail Sharp. Ella Dunlap. And Brady Witzel. And coached by Okay, come on in, coach. Oh, this is a great. Every kid gets an adult coach. I love that.
Troy coached?
That's a great saying on the back of the shirt.
We might have to watch out for this team at Worlds. You might be a little rowdy. Yay. Team Wilson Robotics won third place teamwork and the Judges Award. Team members are Adrian Romero, and is your partner Will Smith here tonight? No. Okay, well, you get a picture with everyone else here today. Congratulations. Small but mighty team, right? There's Mom. Wonderful. That's okay. It goes back together. You're good. Yeah, it does. Oh, it did break. Okay, we'll get you a new one. Yeah, they are. Okay. Okay. That we will make sure of that. I'm going to mark that. Circle them right there. Team Robotics Genius, coached by Molly McCarthy and Erica Martinez Padron, qualified for the Worlds also, and they are Mackenzie Sharp, Glenn Smith, Nicholas Jones. Okay, he's not here. And is it Realm? Realm Kenny. That's it for this team. And our coach is here to join you tonight in the photo? Okay, well, perfect. All right, where are your smiles? How amazing is it that we have so many that will be representing us on the world stage? All right, so we next have Team Killer V's. They won the Innovate Award. Team members are Bryce Witzel, Tommy Harmon, Samuel Nichols, Alex Wunderlich, and Alan Arthur. And coaches, please join them for the picture. Okay, the Hive 2.5. They won the Design Award. Team members are Alex Large, Caleb Myers, and Ashley Ronk. And that is it for Team Immortal Hornets. No, they were Team Hive 2.5. Yes, that's special. Yep. All right. All right, Team Immortal Hornets. They won the Teamwork Champion and Amaze Award. Team members are Charlie Sharp, Alexis Franks, Kaylee Miracle, Caden McGinnis. And Owen Cook. This is Team Immortal Hornets. Who came up with that name? Immortal Hornets. All right. All right, congratulations. And literally last but not least, Team the Stingers won second place teamwork champions. They are Ellie Wunderlich, Callista Olson, Miles Labaugh, Casey Moore, and Xander Griffey. Oh, Xander's not here. Labaugh. Libaugh. Are there any kids still left? I thought there's nobody left out there.
Hey, Diane, can we get a thank you for those that are helping out wrangle in the hall?
Yes. Thanks to my colleagues who are who are wrangling.
Right now.
Mark Schultz, Melissa Comine, and Tim Hamilton. Thank you all for being here, and congratulations to parents as well.
Sarah's causing issues.
Well, congratulations to our staff of the month and to all of our students. And I want a special thank you to all our parents and coaches for all their support of our kids. And we're just all very happy to congratulate all of you. And hopefully you represent us all very well at World. So great job. That brings us to the resolution portion of our,
Dallas. Yeah, so Worlds is in Dallas this year. They had 2 years where they didn't have it at all. It used to be in Louisville. But Vex, who runs, or Rec Foundation, who runs Vex Robotics, is headquartered in Dallas. That is from the 3rd of May to like the 13th. And so they have teams that compete elementary, middle school, and high school. And then there's different types of robots, metal and plastic. There's different versions of the robots. They also do drones. They do ROTC separate. They have some other divisions. This year, Iowa had an expanded, I guess, number of slots due to the fact that there was a big governor's grant that opened up a lot of slots because the number of registered kind of groups. Yeah, it was nice. The Worlds, or the state competition, is what qualifies you for Worlds. So like the 2 TJ teams that won here won state for Iowa in Waukee, and then they qualified. And then the state for elementary and middle school was actually held here. So, and our group, Junior Jackets, put it on, so,
that's great.
yeah.
And thank you for all your help and support the robotics teams.
I think there was only 6 high schools in the state of Iowa, or 9, that are going to
Only
Worlds.
6, yeah.
Yeah, 6, right?
Wow.
So we have one of the 6.
Yep, yep.
That is great. All right, are we ready for some resolutions? First up is a second reading of policies. Is there a motion?
I can move to approve the second reading of the policies and the first and only required reading of the corresponding administrative regulations as presented. Policy 210, statutory and standing committees. 223, Board of Directors Policy Development and Review. 404, gifts to employees. 416, administrator salaries. 502, compulsory attendance. 507, student organizations, non-curriculum related. 507.1, student associations and non-curriculum related regulation. 507.2, facility access application and parent information verification form. 601, school day. 606, physical education exception. 910, public complaints about school personnel. And 911, relation with parent organizations as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
And any discussion on the second reading of policies?
I guess just if people at home pay attention to this, there's very little changes to these, just some wording formats. So nothing substantive here in all these policies.
I just had needed a little input. Do we offer a lot of student-led, non-curriculum related activities?
Clubs.
Yeah, well,
To my knowledge, we don't have any requests just because with 21st Century, we have the option for them to do their own clubs, and we have that at most of the schools, so.
okay.
Any other questions or discussion? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
And I have opened up online voting as well. Ms. Shudek,
Yes.
Mr. Peters.
Yes.
Ms. Myers,
Yes.
Mr. Tripp,
Yes.
Mr. Kazire,
Yes.
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
and Mr. LaFurla.
Yes. And the second reading of policies has been approved. Before us now is approval of optimized systems controls integration and HVAC systems optimization. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I can move the board approve the proposal from Optimized Systems for controls integration and HVAC systems optimization across all district-owned buildings in the amount of $994,000.
Thank you. Is there a
second
second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions?
Yeah, can we go into a little bit about this?
Dean, were you going to have Mr. Martin speak to that, or is
Yeah.
there someone from?
Yeah, so
Okay.
Travis Martin, our Director of Facilities, will provide you an overview.
Thank you. I'll give you an overview of the project, and then I've got the representatives from Optimized Systems here if there's any further technical questions that I can't answer. But the project is really three things that are happening. We're integrating to a new platform for our building management system. Our current system is not very user-friendly. It's not standardized across the district. Our alarming systems aren't standardized. Our point name conventions aren't standardized. So we'll be moving to a new open front-end platform that is non-proprietary, which will allow us to go out to competitive bid on all of our control projects from here on out, and any required maintenance that might need to be done. So that's the integration to the new front-end platform. There's retro commissioning, and the retro commissioning is a team from Optimized Systems will be in each of our buildings looking at all the points, damper controls, pressure sensors, all of our points out there to make sure that they're operating to the way that they're supposed to be. Sometimes we don't find those things until somebody makes a complaint and we go out and respond to a work order and we find that a piece of equipment, a damper may not be opening all the way. So with them retro commissioning, they'll go through the building and take a look at all those points so we make sure that the data that's going into the new platform is good data. We certainly don't want to have a new platform and then be importing bad data to that platform. And then the final piece of it is optimization, where they'll go through and change the sequence of operations to optimize each of our buildings. There's a lot of things that have changed since some of these buildings have been worked on. Obviously, COVID in the last couple of years. So we'll have buttons on the graphical user interface that our techs have that can put it into a COVID mode, which would optimize the outside air and increase the air exchanges in the building. We could have it go into, if there's a high illness rate in a school, we could put it into that mode and it would flush the air a couple times throughout the night so the building's fresh instead of just going to an unoccupied state. So, and then through that as well, we'll make sure that the buildings are operating to the specifications. We're bringing in all the outside air requirements that we're supposed to, And hopefully there'll be an ROI eventually on that through energy savings.
And this is across 16
All
school
16
buildings.
schools, yes.
So I guess I just have a question. Maybe this is more for Dave or the board. I remember, we've done, it seems like over the years we've done so many of these types of projects, right? And I remember back when Honeywell came in and they were going to integrate all of our things and provide all this monitoring, and none of that happened. I guess what's the, I don't know to say, does this work? But I'm like, it seems like
Guaranteed.
we just seem to always be putting money into this, and then there's updates and upgrades, and then there's more. I don't know, Dave.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed when Honeywell didn't come through. That was just, I'm sure everybody was disappointed that they said they had some deliverables for us, and we just didn't really recognize any savings. And but I mean, looking through what we should be doing anyway is that, on a regular basis, we should be retro commissioning our equipment to make sure it's maintaining, or at least benchmarking it, so we know when we see trends of the equipment not meeting those key points, then we can actively work on it instead of reacting to a failure. So and they did a wonderful job on our two middle schools. Caught things in the middle school that needed to be attended to. I believe a couple areas up at Kern. They worked with the mechanical contractor, the general contractor, with the school district to rectify a comfort issue that we were having in one of the areas at the school up there at Kern. But it's all what we should be doing anyway. And it looked like with the training that they'll be providing to our staff, is that our staff then will be able to, at some point in time, possibly do some of that retro commissioning, and not having us to contract that out to another company that would do it. We could, through proper training, be able to do those retro commissionings that should be done on a regular basis.
I'd say, I just point out a couple differences. One thing nice about this is we're very reactive right now. We react when people call. We react to hot or cold situations. By doing this and going through all of the schools and doing the in-depth analysis that they're going to do for us and ensure that everything's operating correctly, we'll be able to flip the script and then become a proactive department doing preventative maintenance measures and things to maintain those systems. Right now, our techs are simply spending all their time putting fires out on a daily basis. And then back to the Honeywell project, Optimized Systems, they're not a controls vendor. They don't sell controls. They're going to integrate to a new open front end. So when you have a company that comes in and they got a proprietary system like a Honeywell, it's in their best interest if some of the Allerton or some of the KMC system isn't working quite right, and then they can add to their scope. So some of these proprietary companies try to pull you towards their way and then tighten their grip around you. So with this, all they're doing is going through and ensuring that all the equipment runs, whether it's a KMC controller, whether it's a Honeywell, a Trane, a Siemens, or an Allerton controller. And if it is working, great. So they integrate it to that new front end. They're not in the business of selling controls, so they have no vested interest in trying to find things wrong or, those type of things. So that's a major difference about a non-proprietary company that is not in the controls business.
And we'll have the ability to see more live kind of what's going on within our systems and react. I mean, before someone's called us if something's off.
Oh, absolutely. Optimize has been great. There's been a lot of training. We've done advocation services on Wilson and Kern both, in addition to the commissioning, and they found a lot of errors. Rick Harris, who's here tonight, raising his hand, he's been the lead in the district, working directly with all three of our HVAC techs, training them, training that they haven't had up to this point, and some of them have been here 10-plus years, on how to troubleshoot in these programs. They're going to be involved in the development of how these graphics look. They'll have the points that they want to have, so it'll be a win-win all the way around.
Is there an estimated operational cost savings, or are we doing this primarily because we'll be able to have better control over the building systems?
I don't know if we can put a number to the cost savings on the optimization through energy efficiency, but there's going to be some ROI there. And then, I wish I didn't have the opportunity to pull the numbers of what we paid per square foot for controls at Kern and Wilson, but we did go ahead and use this new open front end and went out to competitive bid on the Early Learning Center, and I'm sure we saved money on the controls portion of that just by opening it up to 3 vendors instead of sole sourcing to a single vendor and paying the price that they ask. So, Rick Kmichik, do you have any additional cost savings or projections? Rick is the president and CEO of Optimized Systems, and they've done these projects at OPS and various other places, so he might have some baseline data for us.
Yeah, we hate to put a number on it because we haven't been through the school. So
Yeah.
the reality of most projects we've done, you can easily see a 10 to 20% savings. But the reality of that is if we go through a particular school and realize you're bringing in not the proper amount of outside air that you should be, and we make those adjustments, you're not going to save energy on that. You might actually spend a little more energy. So we hate to guarantee savings until we've been through a particular school, seen how it's currently operating, and making those adjustments. But if history repeats itself, what we've done for a lot of other clients, we typically see that 10 to 20% energy cost savings.
Okay, thank you.
So is it, and I apologize because this is way outside my level of knowledge here. Are we talking about an actual like computer system, or are we talking like hardware somebody's going in to install something new?
So on the retro commissioning, we're talking about them going in and looking at physical pieces of hardware to make sure they're operating appropriately, like dampers are actually opening and closing the way they're supposed to, or sensors are calibrated and reading correctly. When we're talking about integration, that is a new software platform that resides on a server that John and his team are spinning up for us. So that'll be a whole new software package that enables all of our techs, whether they're at work or at home, to get on their laptop and be able to see all the schools in the district with a unified way that they look. Right now, each school looks different because they've been done by different vendors. Like I said, the alarming standards aren't standard. A boiler may alarm at one school, but we don't have it alarming at another. So unification all the way across the naming conventions and everything. So part of it will be looking at physical, mechanical pieces of equipment. Part of it's a software package and an integration to a new front end.
And then going into the schools then, so we're bringing employees in, but you said you have done work at OPS then, so
Yeah, we've done lots of clients, Omaha Public Schools, University of Nebraska Medical Center, Creighton University, so.
so you already have like one source in place with background checks and things.
Absolutely, yep.
Fantastic.
Yep.
The cost savings on ROI for energy by itself up in the air, but just the employee not having to put out fires is
Yeah.
a major step in the right direction.
Any other questions or discussion? Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Mr. Tripp,
Yes.
Mr. Peters,
Yes.
Ms. Myers,
Yes.
Ms. Shudek,
Yes.
Mr. Kazire,
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla.
Yes, and the motion carries. Next up is approval of the 2021-22 Attendance Center Report, enrollments. Is there a motion?
All motion, the Board of Directors approves the 2021-2022 Attendance Center enrollment.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'd say never has there been a more complex report to read. I'm just
Required by the state. Yeah.
Well, it's,
a lot of data.
and a list of all the opportunities that our kids have.
Yeah.
There you go.
Any other discussion?
Double the size.
Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Ms. Myers?
Yes.
Ms. Shudek?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes, and the motion is approved. Next is approval of the Green Hills AEA School-Based Interventionists MOU. Is there a motion?
I can move that the board approves the agreement with the Green Hills AEA for the school-based interventionist MOU as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? This is an MOU that provides graduation coaches to our high schools in Canesville and our 2 middle schools.
That's correct.
Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Ms. Shudek?
Yes.
Ms. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes, the motion carries. Next up is approval of agreement with Green Hills Area Education Agency. Is there a motion?
I move that the Board of Directors approves the agreement with Green Hills Area Education Agency for the 2022-2023 school year.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or discussion?
Just in the, oh, go ahead.
I was just a little more explanation. Anybody have on that can tell me exactly what that means to us and how that's affecting the school?
Good evening. Each year, the school district enters into an agreement with the Green Hills Education Agency that specifies what services they will provide to the school district. Historically, because we are the largest school district in Green Hills AEA, we've required different services, most of which we've been able to provide in-house, but typically would be their responsibility to provide to a rural district. So as a result of that, we've negotiated with Green Hills before I was here, so at least 12 years, an agreement with them where instead of them providing direct service to us, they would provide us dollars, funding, and we would hire our own people to carry out those services. It was a win-win, it has been a win-win for both of us for many, many years. Unfortunately, they have chosen to reduce the amount of funding that they're providing us to provide basically our own employees for those services. So we, Dr. Murillo, myself, have been advocating with them as fiercely and respectfully as we could for the last 3 years, not to reduce our funding. But unfortunately, 2 years ago, it was reduced by about $100,000. And then for this upcoming school year, it will be reduced by $180,000 for the next 2 years, and then it will go to $0 in 24-25. That was per the vote of the Green Hills Board of Directors at their last meeting.
So they're not giving us staff, now they're
Correct.
not giving us funding for our staff that we've hired.
That is correct.
It would sound like a win-win.
So Green Hills will not provide the services that it sounds like they're required to provide to our district, or?
Green Hills will provide service, but they will do it with their employees, and they will do it in the manner in which they believe is the most effective, which we have chosen not to take advantage of some of their services in the past because they serve all school districts in Green Hills AEA, from schools like Diagonal that have 50 children to schools like Council Bluffs who have 9,000 children. And so when we look at the services that they have to provide, primarily it is dealing with oversight of special education services. That's where basically their statutory obligation lies. And so we've chosen to do that, most of that, in-house because we hire a director of special education, which a school district our size should have a director of special education. So we've taken some of the strain off of their employees to have to do a lot of the oversight services that we do with our own employees in-house. Now, we could go back to them and say, you know what, we're not going to have a director of special education in our district. We're going to need your help to do that. We could do that. We are not advocating that we do that at this point. We've been able to work in the budget a way to figure this out, to cover that cost in-house, because we believe the way that we're providing the service is superior to the way that they would provide the service.
What additional services besides special education will we lose by not receiving these services through the AEA? Because they get their money as a pass-through basically through us. And so if we're passing money through to provide services back to us, how is that, well, we can't answer that question. It's their board who voted. But I guess what additional services will we lose as by them zeroing us out?
So over the past 4 years, what we have reduced is they provided us dollars to hire behavior consultants. So we have absorbed that cost already within the school district. They provided us funds to hire additional school-based interventionists. We call them graduation coaches that are beyond the MOU that you just approved tonight.
Right.
That cover, go a little bit deeper than what those services provide. They provide us support in our technology department, specifically in student information. And that has been as part of an FTE allocation. So they paid for part of FTE, so we don't have to access school information system support through the AEA like many school districts do. And so those are things that we either lose, as you mentioned, or we figure out a way to continue to support and provide them in-house. Should we decide to go to the AEA, we would, and demand those services, which we could, we would be receiving them at the manner in which they believe is best for our school district, which we believe at this point, our model has worked very well with our employees that are dedicated to us and are not spread clear across the AEA to serve school districts from 50 to 9,000 students who have a very diverse, wide array of needs.
So then in 3 years, when we have no more funding from them,
Correct.
what relationship do we have with the AEA?
I'm actually almost thinking like now, right? Like if you've already committed to you're cutting funding, why do we continue with AEA?
Well, so the AEA, we don't have a choice whether or not we belong to the AEA. I think, as Mr. Kazire said, their funding is flow-through funding, so it's money that comes into our budget and goes right out the door. AEAs provide support for school psychologists primarily, is the role that they provide the most FTE support, which are Green Hills employees who work inside of our school district. They also provide services like occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy that may be required for students with individual needs. Those are all things that they're required to do by Iowa code. And they'll continue to do those. We just have, at this point, we have an impasse on the way in which we believe that their responsibilities could best be served in our school district. And like I said, we've worked with, at least since I've been in Council Bluffs, we've worked with 2 chiefs out there who have understood that we're different than the other school districts in the AEA. I think I've given you that data before, but we represent almost 1/3 of all of the special education students in the entire AEA are in our school district. You could put the 25 smallest school districts together and they still wouldn't have as many students living in poverty as we have. So we are different. And we've made that case to them and to their chief and to their board of directors multiple times over the past 3 years. We used to not have to do that. It was understood that we had a different need. And unfortunately, that's no longer been recognized. Now we're hopeful that with Dr. Plord, who was previously the director of secondary ed, principal at Thomas Jefferson, principal at Washington Elementary. He's served in Council Bluffs for a long time. He understands the needs of Council Bluffs. We're hopeful that we'll be able to reopen that conversation again in the future. and come to another compromise down the road.
So if this resolution doesn't pass tonight, say a majority votes no, what exactly is the consequence of that?
I don't know the answer to that.
Do we have to go back to
We're-
them and try to renegotiate?
No,
or-
we are recommending that the board approve this resolution. I think if there were recourse, it would be, as board members, you certainly have the right to contact their board members and share your displeasure with what they took a vote at their last board meeting, and this was the resolution that they passed, is reflected in the agreement that we're bringing you tonight.
So they made the decision for us. There isn't anything. Okay, I got you. I was just wanting to make sure before.
I mean,
Yeah.
we could table it and,
Doesn't sound like
But-
anything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no
it's
reason
doesn't-
to.
Could you talk about the structure of the board and how those board members represented the AEA? So that would kind of give them some insight to how important it is that
Yeah.
we have good candidates.
Yeah, so as Dr. Merle mentioned, the board members of the Green Hills AEA are voted on by member districts, which you have the responsibility to do that every 2 years. We actually have two and part of another, and that's, those are allocated proportionally based on student membership and population. So I believe there are 9 board of directors, 8 or 9 board of directors on Green Hills AEA. We have 2 point some of those that are exclusively represent the Council Bluffs School District. And so those member districts that are in those representative board districts elect or cast weighted votes, basically, based on how many students they have for directors every 2 years. And so this recently, a year ago, you asked to put Julie Smith into one of those roles. And I think if it hasn't been more obvious, it is probably glaringly obvious now, the important role that those board members play in representing the work of our school district moving forward.
I understand you may not know the answer to this, but do you know if this is happening to other districts in the AEA, that their funding is being zeroed?
So these type of agreements have existed among other AEAs. Most notably, they happen in large urban school districts where they have some type of swap of funds or additional funds in lieu of providing direct service. As the AEAs have had their funding cut, we empathize with them that they've also had to make some sacrifices and make some decisions. And as a result, these types of agreements are not as popular as they once were across the state. But then you have large school districts like Des Moines who basically don't use or have an AEA. I mean, they're semi-independent when it comes to that. And quite frankly, there's a bill in the legislature right now that would reduce the number of AEAs to 4 across the state. And, we went through a merger 10 years ago, basically, 9 years ago, when we merged with Green Valley. So, the certainty is of what the role of the AEAs will be going forward is unknown. They have a $20 million reduction off the top every year. That is the bargaining position now when it comes to SSA and the budget for education in the state of Iowa. Nobody even talks about renewing the $20 million to the AEA. The conversation always starts, well, that's going to be a cut. And so they're dealing with that too.
Thank you. Well, it's disappointing, but, sounds like we had a system as the largest provider of pass-through funds in the AEA that seemed to work for many years, and I'm hopeful that we will continue to work in partnership with our peers at the AEA, and who knows what the future will
We
hold.
do have the greatest number of employees that are AEA employees in our schools, so,
Yeah.
right there, Browns.
Any other thoughts? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Peters,
Yes.
Mr. Tripp,
Yes.
Ms. Myers,
yes.
Ms. Shudek,
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes, the motion has been approved. Next is approval of K-12 art instructional resources. Is there a motion?
I'll motion that we approve the purchase of K through 12 art instructional resources from the Art of Education University.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
And any discussion on this?
Happy to see funds go into something other than sports every once in a while. Humanities are super important, and I'm glad to see more of that, especially with our robotics team doing so well. It just shows that, well, and the esports, there are lots and lots of students that have lots of talent, and I'm glad to see we're supporting that.
Agreed.
So this includes like some on-demand access to what exactly?
And I thought it might just be helpful for Dr. Vorthman, since we have not only
Maybe this in
art,
the
but
next one.
We
drama,
have
music.
Welcome back.
Newsela, so maybe you could just do an overview
I
of
will.
all of them, so they could, yeah.
So this is the time of year where we start coming with all of our purchases for the next upcoming school year. We did a few last month, they'll have a few this month, and then there'll probably be a few next month. But as part of our regular curriculum revision cycle, this year it was fine arts. And so Michaela Hill, she is our K-12 fine arts curriculum specialist. She does a fantastic job. She's the one that helps put together the district art show. And has led the teachers this year through a review of our curriculum and then a review of our resources as well. So those teachers get together, they look at what programs we're offering, the courses that we're offering at the secondary level, how we're aligning our curriculum at the elementary level to make sure that we're feeding these students into programs where there's a pathway for them. And then we want to make sure that they have good resources. And so what you're being asked to approve tonight are the resources that they have vetted and recommended for approval. The one that you have in front of you, the Art of Education University, is kind of a multifaceted a resource. Not only does it provide teachers access to kind of on-demand learning for themselves, it also provides a repository of aligned activities that go right back to the National Art Standards. And that's one of our non-negotiables when we do curriculum adoptions is whatever resources we provide have to be aligned to standards. And they have to be representative of our curriculum. So this is the resource that they've chosen. We were able to negotiate a pretty good deal on it for a 7-year commitment. And so we're recommending that you approve that tonight. You'll see the same thing happened with the high school drama resources and the K-12 music. We're going a little bit different route with music. So much of, when I look at the previous adoption that we did with music 7 years ago, we chose Spotlight on Music, which is a very reputable national curriculum from McGraw-Hill. And believe it or not, we actually bought subscriptions at that time to Napster. If any of you remember what Napster was, it was at one time illegal. It's now legal. But that was at the time, that was the best vehicle we had for teachers to develop playlists of songs to use in their classroom. And so we've still been using that, basically trying to work with John's department to convert CDs into digital files in Google Drive so that teachers could use their Chromebooks to play them. And it's been very frustrating as technology has outpaced the longevity of some of these curricular resources. So you'll notice, especially on the K-12 music, we are moving to a digital platform, which really allows us to harness the one-to-one initiative, even in our fine arts classrooms. And then you'll move down to Newsela. You've already approved this, but last year, this is a renewal of the same program. Newsela is a very well-recognized national company. What they do, basically, is they curate. Basically, if you can imagine it being published in a newspaper or a magazine nationally, they have curated those articles, and then they have meta-tagged them. So if there's an article about the war in Ukraine and the way that it has impacted the economy, they then develop lessons that are aligned to national standards that help students use those type of real-time events to tie back to those standards. And so it's very popular in our social studies classrooms. We've actually used them to create some what we call custom collections, where we've worked with them to take our curriculum and the standards and the progressions that we have in our curriculum, and then they align resources to them along with our curriculum specialist, so that teachers have kind of a vetted list of resources to use, so they're not spending hours and hours trying to find a specific article or specific current event item to align to tomorrow's lesson. So that's what that resource is. I hit them all?
So were there classrooms that were able to pilot these resources through this last cycle?
So I'll just give you a couple of examples. Newsela we've already been using, so that's kind of a non-issue, but the EEMC license for music, that one was piloted this last school year, and the teachers, basically we've decided that that is probably the premier resource. There is another the problem that we run into is that we know that's the best resource, but it's not completely built out. They're still building it. So there's a couple of other resources that we'll be supplementing for a couple of years until that resource is completely built out. And that has mostly to do with copyright issues that come with music and ASCAP and making sure that everybody gets paid. Hal Leonard, which kind of owns EEMC, Essential Elements of Music, sorry. They're the big dog, basically, in K-12 music. And so using them gives us pretty much the best access to music across K-12 spectrum.
So all of these have pretty low, like, what looks like license costs, per user costs, except for drama. So explain to me, digital theater, why that's so expensive.
Why drama is so
I
expensive?
feel like it's saying 2,000 or 3,000 a month for that versus
Yeah.
some of these other ones are.
It's the only one that you see up here that basically has a sequential standalone group of high school courses. And so they charge us a per student fee. And so at high school, we have about 4,500 students. And drama tends to be one of the most expensive because you are getting access to play scripts and the rights to be able to
Copyright.
produce them if you would so choose. And that's where, even down to EMC and Hal Leonard, that's where the money is invested in most of these products is,
So
it's
then
in
buying
copyright.
these, they no longer have to go after put for the rights to that script once they have this.
If the script is in there, they have it, correct. Now, if they decide, we're gonna do a play and it's not from our drama class, well, then they'll still have to buy the rights to perform it. But this is for the curricular-based class, drama 1, 2, 3, and 4, which we're gonna do some work on next year to make it a little bit more enticing to students and more flexible in the way that it's scheduled.
Thank you, Dr. Worthman.
Gotcha.
Any other discussion? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Ms. Shudek?
Yes.
Ms. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes, and the motion has been approved. Next up is approval of high school drama instructional resources. Is there a motion?
Move that the board approves the purchase of the high school drama instructional resources from Digital Theater as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
And any discussion? Got a nice explanation from Dr. Worthman. Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Ms. Shudek?
Yes.
Mr. Tripp? Yes. Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Ms. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes.
That was expensive. They better use the scripts. Man, I believe.
The motion has been approved. Before us now is approval of the K-12 music instructional resources we discussed earlier. Is there a motion?
I move that the Board of Directors approves the purchase of K-12 music instructional resources from Music Play, Smart Music, and Essential Elements as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
And any discussion?
Copyrights are expensive.
This one's a deal, so. All I'm saying,
Not really, when you add all three of them up.
looks like a deal.
Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Peters,
Yes.
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Ms. Shudek,
Yes.
Ms. Myers,
Yes.
Mr. Tripp,
Yes.
Mr. Kazire,
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla.
Yes, and the motion has been approved. Before us now is renewal of Newsela instructional resources for secondary social studies. Is there a motion?
I'll motion the improvement of the agreement with Newsela for social studies instructional resources.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
And any discussion?
I just appreciate that there was no rate increase for the next 3 years, so that's great.
Any other
not raising the
discussion or
rates.
questions? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Tripp,
Yes.
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Mr. Kazire,
Yes.
Ms. Shudek,
Yes.
Ms. Myers.
Yes.
Mr. Peters.
Yes.
And Mr. LaFurla.
Yes, and the motion has been approved. Next up is approval of the Abraham Lincoln High School Auditorium base bid. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve D.R. Anderson of Omaha, Nebraska as the winning contracting bid for the ALHS Auditorium project in the amount of $705,000.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
They need some place to act now.
Nice.
Much needed too, for the NHS and what was the other part of that?
Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame, yes, and definitely needs acoustic treatments and some updates. I mean, all the furniture, the seating is still fantastic, but it definitely needs more than just a small facelift. There's quite a bit of work that should be done, especially to compete with some of our surrounding schools that have had recent new additions put on with their auditoriums.
I guess I'd just like to make the point, last time we met, I discussed about one source and having it added into the contract. I asked that there was an amendment added, it wasn't added, so again, I'm disappointed that it's not there. Not against the project itself.
Did we have that conversation before we put these out to bid?
No.
Or, yeah. I mean, it's just pointing out the timing of that conversation.
It could have been added as an amendment, though, correct? So they could have been
No,
notified.
we would have had to rebid the
We
project.
would have to get rebids from.
I'm thankful, though, that to see the complete cost of the project. In the past, when we had projects, we didn't see what the upfront, what the total cost of the project would be as far as equipment, seating, things that we would provide. So this is a very transparent way of looking at the total project cost. So I want to thank the administration for providing us with those additional costs so that we can see the true cost of the project, not just the construction side.
Matt, the bid that went through with D.R. Anderson, do you have any idea if they do work over on the Omaha side with schools?
Yes.
They do.
They do have K through 12 experience. I don't know particularly which projects they have done, but we've worked with them previously at BBH.
So I don't think it would be too much for this to ask them to have the background checks.
Absolutely. We can certainly ask them to provide it.
Okay. But this went out to bid when?
We put this out to bid, let me see, it was in March.
In March. Okay,
Pretty recently here.
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion?
I do, Chris. I know, Ms. Shudek, you feel very, very strongly about one source and having the background checks. I do think that it is something that the board, the consensus of the board needs to be, and so that it instructs that that is our next step. And once that is the next step and the board has agreed upon that, I will ensure that they're in anything that we bid. That was not in place when we bid this. And so therefore, I can go back to DLR. I can send Roger back to DLR to talk to them about working in what school districts and have they done one source and trying to pull this in and seeing what it would cost the district if we had to pick that price up. But I still believe right now, I know that you're leaning for a no vote against this because it doesn't have one source. But I can tell you that this went out to bid before we got to this place. And so I'm hoping that we will see that this is a good project for AL and we'll do what we can to support the background checks on the backside. And moving forward, as we look at Canesville and others, we can get those in place. The board needs to come to that consensus and then give that direction.
No, and I appreciate that, and like I said, I'm not against the project itself. This is something that I've been talking as a board member since I became a board member. So I completely understand that, and I hope that it does get added on in the background. But for me, it's something that I hold strongly on.
Especially given what this actual bid is in the auditorium, and I believe it starts and is through the summer while there's a potential for kids to actually be in the school. I feel like that's a very important point to make in this with one source. Some of the other projects, the bids that we've approved on where it was, at the Early Learning Center, there are no kids there, but here it is a bit of a different situation.
I don't know, I think that would also imply that we feel that this company doesn't provide at least quality employees, and would hate to make that assumption also with what we're saying.
Or that one source is a solution to whatever problem we think might exist.
It's not a solution, but it's a good stepping stone in the right direction.
Okay, any other discussion? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Mr. Kazire,
Yes.
Mr. Tripp,
Yes.
Mr. Peters,
No.
Ms. Myers,
No.
Ms. Shudek.
No.
I'm
This is
next.
4-3. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. LaFurla, I apologize.
Yes, and the motion has been approved. Next, we have approval of repainting costs for the Thomas Jefferson High School tennis courts. Is there a motion?
I'll motion for Tennis Courts Unlimited to repaint the TJ High School tennis courts in the amount of $46,950.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
This has been needed for a while.
Yeah.
Those courts are bad.
And I think Pat made a good point on our last motion, right? This one is not inside, indoors, where children will be around. This is one that I can make the exception of going forward, even though one source isn't there. I've looked at the company. It looks like they're not going to do a sub of a sub situation. It's a smaller one person, a small company that would not be outsourcing that work. And it's outside.
Any other questions or discussion? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Tripp,
Yes.
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Mr. Kazire,
Yes.
Ms. Shudek,
Yes.
Ms. Myers,
Yes.
Mr. Peters,
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla.
Yes, and the motion has been approved. Finally, we have a approval of change order number 3 for the Early Learning Center. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the change order number 3 for Leach Construction in the amount of $93,620.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Questions, explanation? Let's stop digging.
I mean, are we to that page where we're not going to find anything else? There's no surprises.
Next thing is
Treasure
Right.
treasure hunting.
Right.
Good evening. Yeah, we didn't find any treasure. We did find the old 8th Street School. That was just buried instead of removed when they did the demolition. I will say that when I was here last time, I was not guaranteeing any results from the last change order. We are successfully complete. It did the job. We were out there. We're at finished grade. The work was completed, I think, on Saturday. We checked all the grades. Now we're just sitting. So this was basically to do the removal of the surprises, other surprises.
Jared, who put the trailer up already? I saw that today.
Nice dirt.
Oh, is that Daryl? Yeah, who put that up?
The general contractor, Midwest.
Okay, so they're starting to move in there.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think they
perfect.
picked a good location. I think they'll probably use the area across the street for laydown and staging. And we have a pre-construction meeting tomorrow to kind of go over all the details. And they're
perfect.
planning on gearing up and being on that site on May 16th after
Wonderful.
it sits for 3 weeks.
Perfect. All right, good deal. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Ms. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes, and the motion has been approved. Last item is approval of our consent agenda, which includes acknowledgement of a donation from the Knights of Columbus in the amount of $772.67 for special education students, a donation from Wall Optical, Bob Wall, in the amount of $50 for the Roosevelt Autism Program, acknowledgement of a donation from Greg Duncan Insurance in the amount of $100 for the Roosevelt Autism Program, renewal of e-Goldfax, renewal of Nutanix frame, not sure about that pronunciation, preschool community partner agreements, agreement with West Central Community Action for preschool contracted services, special education contracts, approval of special education contracts for students placed outside of the Council West Community School District at Boys Town and Alpha School, personnel action, and claims and accounts. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Ms. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes, and the motion has been approved. I'd just like to mention before we adjourn, earlier tonight, the board had a work session where we discussed the superintendent evaluation process and the tools we use for the superintendent evaluation, as well as other school district leaders. And we also had a conversation about OneSource. And at our last board meeting, we had a long conversation about the many end-of-school year activities that happen this time of year. Just a reminder of how busy all of you are, and we thank you for all your work. So with that, we are adjourned.